ta'ala accept all our efforts, and as our daris for Imam Hussain alayhi salam, recite the loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the souls of those who have died from our family members, parents, grandparents, those who have taught us this way and path of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. For the mercy of for the souls, recite the second salawat louder. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Lady side.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين فاطر السماوات والأرضين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجاد أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Let's say together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. For the hastening in the return of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, recite the loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Dear brothers and sisters, respected guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this blessing over us in these great nights that we gather together to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and to be part of this global commotion, the commotion going on in the whole world, and everywhere you go, every city, every country, you find at least a small majlis for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our majlis included among those majalis that Imam Hussain alayhi salam look at them. And look at those who mourn for the tragic events that happened to him. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having granted us the privilege of witnessing this season of Muharram. Some of our brothers and sisters were with us last year, but this year, unfortunately, we don't have them with us. We have to be thankful to Allah that He has given us this opportunity to be in this majlis, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to encompass the souls of those who have died with His mercy and blessing. Brothers and sisters, it is the time of Muharram, and all Shias, all the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, are preparing themselves every year until the last one, until the next Muharram, to get prepared and have a better Muharram, to get more knowledge about Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, to be better follower of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Inshallah, the main topic that I am going to talk this night and subsequent night, the main topic will be about the spirituality and equilibrium, and we want to understand what is the state of equilibrium. Do we have such discussion in Islam or not? Because maybe some say we don't have any moderation in Islam. Islam is the right religion. We don't have any moderate. You have to be strict. And there is no way to be moderate and compromise. So the religion is clear. Then we need to discuss what is equilibrium and how we can find this in the teaching of Ahlul Bayt, especially in the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So in the first night, let me explain a little bit about the importance of Muharram and Ashura. I wrote some points because all of them are important, so I took note not to miss any of them. First of all, we need to know that all those who attend the majalis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, consciously or subconsciously, they are actually commemorating and remembering the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the submission towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this majlis is not for commemorating and remembering, crying for Abu Abdullah, or just azadari or mourning for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The one who cries here for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, indeed he cries out of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Imam Hussein alayhi salam was the servant who was completely submitted to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remembering Imam Hussein alayhi salam is remembering all beauties and all good qualities in morality, in religiosity, in submission. This is the first point that we need to keep in mind, that why am I crying? Why am I commemorating? Why am I in this majlis? And we all know that the base of Islam is morality. The famous hadith, إنما Prophet of Islam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in a famous hadith said, إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. Surely I was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to people to complete the noble moral qualities. And you see the climax of these moral qualities in the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So when Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, إِنَّمَا أُرِيدُ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي, I merely want to do islah and correction of errors and mistakes and misconceptions and hypocrisy in the nation of my grandfather Rasulullah. So what were those corrections and what were those mistakes? When you see that the core of religion of Islam is morality. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, I want to do correction for this religion. The third point is, we have some moral qualities that they are particular, and some of them are general. For example, all of us know that piety is good, being humble is good. For example, example, generosity is good, but these are particular moral qualities. So we cannot apply one of them in the place of the other. When you are generous, generosity, for example, has no relation to being silent. As you know, for example, being silent and not talking too much is one of the good qualities. But generosity has nothing to do with being silent. So they are separate. They are particular moral qualities. But there are some moral codes that they are general. Everywhere in religion you can find them. That's why I decided to discuss in this night and subsequent nights about moderation and equilibrium. Because whether it is in silence, you have to observe moderation. If somebody is too silent, if somebody is too talkative, you have to be in the middle. So you see, you can apply this moral value in this moral behavior. In, for example, generosity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَىٰ عُنُقِكَ وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ. Do not be too stingy and do not be too generous. Be in the middle. Again, you see moderation. In every action that I want to mention example, you can see the moderation and equilibrium plays a very important role. But the importance of this discussion is there are many misconceptions about equilibrium and moderation. In Arabic, moderation is called al-wasatiyya, means being in the middle. So, many Muslim scholars use the verse of Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. Surely, we made you the middle and moderate nation. Many Muslim scholars say, Vasata, Vasat means you are moderate. You are in the middle of two extremes. The extremism in the Christianity, that they were exaggerating about Isa alayhi salam, and the extremism in Judaism, as it is mentioned in the Tafasir. So Islam is a moderate religion. But because of some misconceptions, it made some Muslim scholars to reject the concept of moderation. Some radical Muslims say we don't have moderation in Islam. Islam is a right religion, and you cannot be negligent about any value of that. You have to be very strong in implementing religion in the society. So when this is the religion, so what is the meaning of moderation? Religion is clear. Wajib, mustahab, haram, makruh. What do you mean by being moderate? So these misconceptions made some Muslims even to reject the concept of moderation. So this is because misunderstanding, that when somebody says a person is a moderate, they say the first picture comes to their mind is a person who is smiling and compromising on all, for example, religious activities. He's a moderate person, means sometimes he prays, sometimes doesn't. So this is a wrong picture of moderation and equilibrium that people have in their mind. We have to correct this picture. And inshallah, through these nights, we'll explain different examples from the life of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, especially Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Recite the salawat. Inshallah, in this session, so that was a short introduction about moderation. But in this session, we'll discuss 4 important discussions. The first discussion will be what is the position of i'tidal and equilibrium in Quran. Do we have this discussion in Quran? Or no, maybe it is just based on hadith. Or no, maybe we don't have in hadith, it is based on philosophy. So the first stage, as it is written in the books of collections of hadith, You see, for example, in Bahar al-Anwar, in the books of fiqh, when they want to start a discussion, they start from the verses of Quran. Do we have this discussion in Quran? Then when they had it in the Quran, then they go to narrations. The second discussion, what is the position of equilibrium and moderation in narrations and in the ethos and conduct of Rasulullah and his immaculate household. The third question that we'll discuss is, what is the relation between reason and equilibrium? How being moderate can affect our reason, and what are the signs of reason that we'll explain. One of them is equilibrium. And the fourth one, which is related to this night and these nights, what is the meaning of equilibrium in commemorating Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Being moderate and to be away from extremism. Because some people, those who are ignorant about the mazhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, about followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they think that this commemoration, this remembering Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a kind of extremism. Why you beat your chest for a person? Yes, we accept that he was a grandson of Prophet, but for 14,000 years, 1400 years ago, for a person who have been killed unjustly, we accept it, but why? Don't you think that this is a kind of extremism? Okay, you want to commemorate, why 10 nights? Why you have Arba'in? Why you walk from Najaf to Karbala? And all these types of questions. We want to show that what is the benefit of this crying and commemorating the name of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. First, let's start the verses of Quran. There are some key words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by these key words refers to moderation and equilibrium. The first key word is word wasat. Wasat, as you know, it means middle. Even those who believe in equilibrium is called al-wasatiyya. In Arabic, moderation means al-wasatiyya, being in the middle. As I said in the famous verse of Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. Surely we made you and we chose you as the moderate and the middle nation. Middle between what? The scholars of interpretation of Quran says between those religions who were before Islam. Each of them were in one side of extremism. The next verse of Quran, maybe somebody says here, wasat doesn't mean moderate, doesn't mean middle. As some interpreters of Quran says, wasat here means to be best, to be best nation. You are the best nation. Allah doesn't say you are the middle nation. So we can read some examples from Quran that the word wasat means to be in the middle. There is a famous verse in Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Observe your prayers, and especially the Salatul Wusta, the middle prayer. So there is a disagreement. What is this middle prayer? But as based on the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, this is noon prayer. We have some other narrations, but this wusta means being in the middle. So this is a key word that is about being middle. Another verse, Surah Ma'idah, verse 89. لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not punish someone who is swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for example, you see some people when they do business, they constantly say, Wallahi this is it, Wallahi this. They don't mean to swear, but it is a kind of word that they use most of the time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah will not punish you for these words that you are using. وَلَكِنْ يُؤَاخِذُكُمْ بِمَا عَقَدْتُمُ الْأَيْمَانِ. But Allah will ask you for those commitments and swearing by Allah that you mentioned, but you did not fulfill your promise. Allah will ask you for those. Then what is the kafara and the punishment for a person who breaks the qasam? فَكَفَّارَتُهُ إِطْعَامُ عَشَرَةِ مَسَاكِينَ مِنْ أَوْسَطِ مَا تُطْعِمُونَ أَهْلِيكُمْ. The one who breaks his qasam and swear and does not fulfill his promise, he has to feed 10 poor persons. What kind of food? Maybe somebody wants to give rice, somebody wants to give wheat, somebody wants to eat kebab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مِنْ أَوْسَطِ مَا تُطْعِمُونَ أَهْلِيكُمْ. It is the middle of your food. Means the average of your food. What you eat constantly in your life. So here you see again the wasat means to be in the middle. The next keyword that is used in Quran for referring to moderation and equilibrium is the word sawa. As you know, sawa, yusawi, sawa, this means to be equal. Why we say to the middle of something sawa? Because when you cut something into two equal parts, the line will be in the middle. Otherwise they are not equal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a verse of Quran says, وَجَاءَ رَجُلٌ مِنْ أَقْصَى الْمَدِينَةِ يَسْأَى قَالَ يَا مُوسَى إِنَّ الْمَلَأَ يَأْتَمِرُونَ بِكَ لِيَقْتُلُوكَ. A man came from a far place, said to Musa alayhi salam, O Musa, Pharaoh and his people want to kill you. فَخْرُجْ إِنِّي لَكَ مِنَ النَّاصِحِينَ. Go out of the city, I am exhorting you. فخرج منها خائفا يترقب قال رب نجني من القوم الظالمين. Prophet Musa alayhi salam left the city and said, Oh Allah, rescue me from zalim people, from oppressors. This is exactly the verse when Imam Hussein alayhi salam was leaving Medina. He recited this verse of Quran. فخرج منها خائفا يترقب. Musa left his city while he was frightened. The next verse, وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَنَ. When he reached to the place Madian, to the city of Madian, قَالَ عَسَى رَبِّي أَنْ يَهْدِيَنِي سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. I hope that Allah guide me towards the middle way, middle of the right path. سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he was entering Mecca, he recited this verse. وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَنَ قَالَ عَسَى رَبِّي أَنْ يَهْدِيَنِي سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. May Allah guide me towards the middle of the right path. This word sawa here means to be in the state of equilibrium and moderate. Not be extreme in one side. So being the middle of something, if that thing is good, it means the best part of that thing. If that thing is bad, it means the worst part of it. For example, we have in the other verse of Quran in Surah Safat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the story of Prophet Dawood said, إِذْ دَخَلُوا عَلَى دَاوُودَ فَفَزَعَ مِنْهُمْ. Those two angels came to Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, فَفَزَعَ مِنْهُمْ. You read the story of Prophet Dawood and his judgment. And then those angels told Prophet Dawood, فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَنَا بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا تُشْرِكْ وَاهْدِنَا إِلَى سَوَاءِ الصِّرَاطِ. O Dawood, guide us to the sawa and the middle of the right path. Another verse of Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, خُذُوهُ فَأْتِلُوهُ إِلَى سَوَاءِ الْجَحِيمِ. Take those perpetrators and kafirs, and let them be in the middle of the head. Sawa'ij. This is one keyword regarding moderation and equilibrium. How was in narrations? Do we have any narration regarding being in a moderate state and equilibrium? There are some narrations, especially one of them is very important and it has some good points in it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa in a hadith said, إِنَّ هَذَا الدِّينَ مَتِينٌ فَأَوْغِلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقٍ. This religion is a strong foundation. So try to deal with that smoothly and with moderation, not very strict. Because as you know, why Rasulullah said this religion is a strong foundation? Because religion is composed of obligations and prohibitions. Itself, it has some difficulties. If you want to make it more difficult for people, then you see many people lose their interest. So Rasulullah said this religion itself is a strong foundation. You don't need to make it more difficult. You don't need to be strict about it. There is a very interesting story. Sometimes I say, we ourselves make religion difficult for ourselves. Sometimes by unnecessary questions. I believe that many of these questions that are sent to the offices of Maraji, they are not necessary to be asked. Like the questions of Bani Israel from Prophet Musa. How should be the cow? Should be yellow or red or white? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, sacrifice a cow, just keep silent. Then you see, and this is, we have another example in our own religion. One day a man came to Rasulullah and asked, Ya Rasulullah, is Hajj wajib? Rasulullah said, yes, it is. Then he asked, Ya Rasulullah, is it wajib every year? Rasulullah kept silent, he didn't say anything. He again repeated the question, Ya Rasulullah, is it wajib every year? Again, he didn't say anything. Rasulullah didn't say anything. In the third time, Prophet of Islam became angry. He said, why do you ask? If I say it is wajib every year, will you go? When religion kept silent about something, try to keep silent about it. Don't make religion difficult for people. Many of these questions that we have about shakiyat, and these are because of the questions of some people, they wanted to dig unnecessary discussions to make religion easy for people. So Rasulullah said, religion itself is a strong foundation, and not make it difficult for people. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says about Prophet of Islam. He says, Siratuhu al-Qasd. The seerah and the ethos and the conduct of Prophet was based on qasd. I did not want to prolong the discussion on the keywords in the Quran, but one of the other keywords that is related to equilibrium is qasd. As you know, we call the knowledge of economy iqtisad. Or when we want to say somebody is economical, we say he is muqtasid. In the verse of Quran, we have also the muqtasid. In Surah Luqman, Prophet Luqman said to his son, "Waqsid fi mashyik." Try to be moderate in when you are walking. Do not walk very fast and not walk very slow. I mean, sometimes out of arrogance, some people when they walk, everyone knows that somebody is entering. And some people are very rushed all the time. Prophet Luqman says, try to be in the middle. Try to be moderate. Waqsid fi mashyik. So Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam said, Siratuhu al-Qasd. The seerah of Rasulullah was being moderate. Not laughing too much, not being grumpy, in the middle, smiling. Sometimes even joking with people, making people laugh. It is a famous hadith that one day Rasulullah just stretched his leg and said to his Sahaba, do you know what this leg look like? My foot look like? Everyone tried to say his own understanding. He said, Ya Rasulullah, your foot is like a sheep, is like sheep. Another said, for example, your foot is like, for example, this fruit. Everyone tries to give an example. Then after some moments that all people gave their examples and answers, Rasulullah just straightened the other legs and said, no, this is like this one. So they were making people happy, but not with haram, not with lie. The one who makes idkhal surur fi qalb al-mu'min, one of the greatest thawabs and rewards is to make the heart of your mu'min brother happy. But not with lying and, some haram acts. No, with halal and accepted. The next hadith from Prophet of Islam himself, the Prophet of Islam said, Alaykum bil qasd. I advise you to be moderate. Another hadith which is also regarding being moderate, al-iqtisad nisful ma'isha. Iqtisad is also coming, the root is the same, means being moderate. Al-iqtisad nisful ma'isha. The one who is in the middle stage in spending. He's not too stingy and he's not too generous. This has half of his life expenses. Being in the middle and being moderate about spending your money is also praised by Ahlul Bayt alayhi wasallam. Al-iqtisad nisful ma'isha. Some people complain that our salary is not enough, we cannot afford our expenses. If you look at their life, you see sometimes they buy something that is not necessary. Sometimes maybe husband insists that we need this one. Sometimes husband says, no, it is not necessary, the wife insists. So in the family, if they are thrifty in spending, then Imam alayhi salam says, al-iqtisad nisful ma'isha. They have half of their salary and half of their life expenses. Now what is the relation? The last discussion, and inshallah I will enter the discussion about Azadari and commemoration. The last discussion is what is the relation of aql and i'tidal, the relation between equilibrium and reason. There is a very beautiful hadith from Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam that should be written with that deserves to be written by gold, and gold is nothing in comparison to their words and teachings. He says, La yura al-jahil illa mufritan aw mufarritan. The jahil person is not seen except in two situations. Either he is doing ifrat or tafrit. Either he is exaggerating about something, or he is wasting the value of something. You see, what happens in Siffin? Some people were always with Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam, but the other day they became Khawarij. Those people who were following Amirul Mu'minin and they were ready to do everything for his cause, the other day would say that you are not Muslim. This la yura al-jahil imma mufritan aw mufarritan. In our daily life we have to be very careful not to follow our jahl and ignorance. Sometimes you see a person who is in good emotion, they start praying all the nawafil and salatul layl, After 1 week they get tired, they leave the salat for 1 month. Then after 1 month again they start for 1 week. This is ifrat and tafrit. So the source is ignorance. And the last discussion about the commemoration for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and what is the being moderate and being in the state of equilibrium. As you know, the Azadari and commemoration of each country is based on their own culture. It is, as it is true about happiness. Not all countries have the same happiness. So as long it is not against Sharia, when it is based on culture of a nation, of a country, that is okay. Everyone has his own way of expression of sadness and grief for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as long as it is not against Sharia. But some people think that this Azadari, especially those who are not on the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, they say, what is the benefit of this? Don't you think that this is a type of extremism? To commemorate the martyrdom of someone who has been killed, we accept unjustly, 1400 years ago. We want to answer by one example, Quranic example, that what are the benefits of Azadari and commemoration of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You may hear the story of Prophet Yaqub, and you know exactly what happened. You read that story. When Prophet Yaqub and Prophet Yusuf were separated by unjust act of their jealous brothers, Prophet Yaqub, in a verse of Quran, explains that why he cries. Exactly the same question was asked from Prophet Yaqub. Why do you cry? He is a prophet, and he tells us what is the secret of crying. Why should you cry? This crying doesn't mean impatience. This crying doesn't mean that you are not pleased with Allah, with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided. Some ignorant people say, okay, Imam Hussein alayhi salam became shaheed. This was the want of Allah. Imam Hussein now is happy in the paradise. He is blessed with the blessing of Allah. Why do you cry? I say, okay, if somebody's infant child dies, you know that this infant child will go to paradise, then why the parents cry? Imam Hussein alayhi salam, yes, he is blessed in paradise, but what is our duty? That those who came after Imam Hussein alayhi salam. No one can deny the tragic events that happened for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We do not cry for the fact that Imam Hussein alayhi salam now is in heaven, in paradise. We are crying for what happened, for injustice, and cruelty. Prophet Yaqub, when his son committed that big crime, and they put the Prophet Yusuf in that well, then they came to Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam. After some time they saw that their father does not stop crying. They said, قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ تَفْتَأُ تَذْكُرُ يُوسُفَ حَتَّى تَكُونَ حَرَضًا أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْهَالِكِينَ. How much you are remembering Yusuf. Either you are going to be ill, or you are going to be perished with this crying. Why do you cry this much? Prophet Yaqub, the answer is very important. He didn't say, why? Because I am impatient, why did you do this? He says, this crying is taking complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Surely, I take my complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So crying for the musibah does not necessarily mean that you complain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, it means you take the complaint from oppressors to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Then when you are taking complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are doing shakwa. Prophet of Islam, in a battle when it was very difficult for him, he said, Allahumma anta al-musta'an wa ilayka al-mushtaka. Oh Allah, you are the helper, and to you the complaints will refer. Rasulullah also take his complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So complaining from zalim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala itself is a conversation with Allah. When you cry for a musibah, it doesn't mean impatience, it means that you are talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. This crying means that I am taking my complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then itself is a munajat. Then crying for Imam Hussein alayhi salam is ibadah. Crying for Imam Hussein alayhi salam is ibadah. Why? Because we are complaining to Allah. Oh Allah, this is a tragic event, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam was killed unjustly. The first reason, so keep in mind, crying for Imam Hussein and commemoration is ibadah. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. The second benefit of commemorating for the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as we learn from the verses of Prophet Yaqub, he said, إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Do you know why do I cry? Because I know something that you do not know. If Prophet Yaqub knew that Prophet Yusuf is alive, why he was crying? It means that by crying, I know at the end of crying and taking my complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fruit of this crying is relief. Why we cry for the disappearance of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam? Recite the salawat. Because we are taking our complaint to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We say, oh Allah, we are separated from our Imam because of unjust nation. Not only they could tolerate Imam Hussein alayhi salam, until the 12th Imam they could not tolerate. And this trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remain until the day that Allah knows, and all Muslims, not all Muslims, all people around the world are waiting for that time. إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Commemoration is the source of relief. The next benefit of commemoration, which is again very important, what was the intention of the brothers of Yusuf? They said, اقتلوا يوسف أو اطرحوه أرضا يخل لكم وجه أبيكم. Kill Yusuf, or send it to a very far place. Why? So your father forget him, and then he doesn't pay attention to him, and he pays attention to you. What was the intention of brothers of Yusuf? To make Yaqub forget his son. To make Yaqub to forget the oppressed one. But Yaqub said, I won't forget the oppressed one. So what is the meaning of commemoration? It means those who want us to leave these majalis, we won't forget the oppressed one. Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We won't Then this lesson that we can learn from Prophet Yaqub, that why we are crying, why we are commemorating. And the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam exists and still reverberates and will reverberate until the end time, because this is the prediction of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam when he said to Bibi Zainab that don't be sad, they will build a tomb on this ground of Karbala that will remain forever. So the commemoration is a guarantee that the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam will reverberate. But not just because of our crying, not because of our commemoration. We are humble servants and followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The prophets of Allah cried for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We have a narration, there is no prophet but cried for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because an angel read the Masa'ib and the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam for them. You know the story of Prophet Adam alayhi salam, Prophet Ibrahim, Prophet Musa, all of them grieved over the oppression that was going on Imam Hussein alayhi salam after them. But the best person who cried for Imam Hussein alayhi salam was Rasulullah. When he cried, it is mentioned in narrations that when Imam Hussein alayhi salam was born, they brought the Imam Hussein alayhi salam, newborn son, grandson to Prophet. Prophet of Islam said, bring that baby to me. Salama said, we are cleansing him. Rasulullah said, are you cleansing Hussein? Allah cleansed Hussein. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. When they brought the cradle of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, Prophet of Islam took him on Hussein. Suddenly they saw Rasulullah burst into tears. He started kissing the body of his newborn grandson Abi Abdullah. Fatima Zahra was amazed, Ya Rasulullah, why do you cry? This is not the time of crying. Rasulullah said, إِنَّمَا أُقَبِّلُ مَوْضَعَ السُّيُوفِ. Ya Fatima, you do not know, I am kissing the places of swords and spears. Sallallahu alayka ya maghlub. مررت على قبر الحسين بكربلاء ففاض عليه من دموعي غزيرا وما زلت أبكي وأبذل شجوي ويسعد عيني دمعها يا وزفيرا. But indeed, the person who is crying the most for Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the Imam of the time. He says, oh grandfather, لَإِنْ أَخَّرَتْنِ الدُّهُورِ. If the time and age was different and I couldn't be one of your helpers, Ya Jaddah, if I wasn't with you, لَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ عَلَيْكَ بَدَلَ الدُّمُوعِ دَمًا. If I was not in Karbala, but I will shed blood instead of tear out of my eyes, Ya Jaddah. But there are many tragic events in Karbala that
Imam Zaman alayhi salam remembers, but there is one scene in Karbala that really breaks the heart of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. He says, "O Jadda, O grandfather, I do not forget the time your horse came back to tents. I do not forget that time. He was neighing and crying. But what happened to the sisters of Imam Hussein, to the daughters of Imam Hussein? فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَا النِّسَاءَ جَوَادَكَ مَخْزِيًّا وَنَذَرْنَا السَّرْجَ عَلَيْهِمْ أَلْوِيًّا بَرَزْنَا مِنَ الْخُدُورِ نَاشِرَاتِ الشُّورِ." When they heard the neighing of the horse of Abi Abdullah, they all ran out of the tents. But what they saw, there is a horse without father. Sallallahu alayhi wa Abdullah. But what happened? They all went to the horse of their father. Everyone said something, but Sakina said one sentence that really breaks the hearts of our nation. Sakina said, "Oh, the horse of my father, just I want you to tell me, did they give water to my father or they killed him with thirst?" Sallallahu alayka ya Maghlub, ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifinaik. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Let's say together, السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ولد الحسين عليهم السلام. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. صلى الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.